I'm Dr. Alana Biggers, and I am an board-certified internal medicine physician, and I am in academic medicine, which means I get to do a little bit of everything. I get to take care of patients, I get to teach students, and I get to be involved in research. So the one word that describes my journey into medicine is perseverance. I actually applied for medical school 3 different times, and I actually took the MCAT 4 times. So I know. Took the MCAT, studied by myself the first couple of times, and didn't take it as seriously as I should have. In undergrad, during your junior year, taking the MCAT, and I did okay, not well enough to get interviews. I got a couple wait lists for interviews, but I just kind of said I wasn't sure whether or not I really wanted to do medicine at that time. So I ended up going to a master's program in public health and epidemiology, and I ended up taking my MCAT a second time during that time as well, self-study, got the same score. Then I went on and worked at the CDC for about 3 years, and during that time I took it seriously, signed up for and paid for a course and did intense studying, and then I ended up doing worse than I did when I did self-study. So that time I did not apply for medical school, and I made the decision to take things slowly. My father passed away around my second year while I was working at the CDC, unfortunately. 59 years old, had a massive stroke, presumably healthy individual. He was diagnosed with at the time when it happened, he had a blood pressure of 200s over 100, so he had undetected high blood pressure that caused his hemorrhagic stroke. And during that year after he passed away, I made the decision that I still wanted to pursue medicine because I felt like there was a need for physicians that looked like me, that people could relate to, people could trust, and my father didn't have that. Even though he was an educated man, he had a PhD in math and pure mathematics, and he was the first black from University of California, Irvine, to get his PhD in math. And he had health insurance, he was a college professor, all of those things, but he did not want to go to see a physician because he didn't really had mistrust of the medical system. So I decided that I was going to take this plunge. So I actually quit my job, and I entered into a Postbac program at Indiana University, and that included MCAT studying and also a year of graduate level courses in physiology, biochemistry, et cetera, anatomy, and I improved my score by I think like 7 points or something like that from the last time that I took it, and I started to get more interviews. So I interviewed I think at like 6 or 7 different places, and I ended up getting waitlisted and literally everywhere. And I remember in the April before, the program was a 2-year program, but most people can opt out of the program after a year if they get accepted to medical school. So there's probably about 27 people in my class. About 20 of them at that point had already gotten acceptances to medical school, and here I was getting waitlisted, and it was a very emotional period for me. And I remember writing an email to the program director like, I don't understand, everyone told me that I'm getting in somewhere, and here I am getting waitlisted everywhere. And so he told me to calm down, and I did eventually calm myself down, that it wasn't in my hands anymore. And I accepted it, and I actually started making plans to go ahead and be in the second year of the program. And then I also started my application early that year. So the year before, it wasn't an early application. It was a little bit later. It was like right in the fall time when I applied. And I thought that that was the bigger issue of me not getting myself and my name out there soon enough and quick enough. So I was ready to accept this defeat, quote unquote, for the year and say, hey, you know what, next year is going to be my year. And about, I want to say it was the first or second week in June, I got a thin envelope from the University of Illinois, Chicago, here, and they, and usually thin envelopes mean you didn't get accepted. So I almost did not open up the envelope because I said, why should I even bother? But then I was like, you know what? I want to see how nice they're going to reject me. And I did. I opened it up, and it was actually an invitation to be interviewed here. And my mom was on the phone, and I was like, Mom, I got an interview. I got an interview. And so, I called here to make sure that it wasn't a, interview for a wait list or anything. Even if it was, I probably would have gone anyway. They said, no, this is real. We were later in our applications this year, which was, June is very late. They've, since that time, I think our interviews in March or April here. But, we drove up here because my mom is from Chicago, so this has always been my second home. I'm from Atlanta originally. So we drove up here and I interviewed and had a really good interview I think it was a Friday. Monday I got a phone call that I got accepted. So that's my story of how I got into medical school. Medical school definitely had a couple, ups and downs, and then residency, mostly ups, a couple things too. I will say, my neuro exam, my first year, the curriculum was a little bit different back then than it was now, but I failed that, my neuroanatomy exam, and I remember being devastated and being like, oh crap. Fortunately though, I was able to use that fear and that I guess that failure to make sure that I had a sound study plan going forward. And I had my boohoo moment. I definitely did, but I definitely tried to take that and say, okay, again, dissecting now what the problem was. Okay, I did not allot myself enough time to study for XYZ. I did not get the questions that I needed to get. So I pushed through it. I ended up passing the rest of my exams for that year and, didn't have to repeat anything. So that's what you're always worried about, repeating stuff. I go to say another example. I actually, my shelf exam, my internal medicine shelf exam, the first time I did not pass it. I did not finish my exam though. So it's one, and this is advice for all. Your internal medicine shelf exam is very long. And I was trying to approach it like an internal medicine physician because that's, what I wanted to be at the time. And so I was taking my time, reading the passages, et cetera, and then I'm like running short on time, and when I realized that I probably had 20 questions left and maybe 10 minutes or something crazy, so I ended up having to guess on probably the last 10 questions. And I didn't finish my exam, and I subsequently did not pass. So that was embarrassing, and that was the field I wanted to go into. So it was like, oh my God, I'm never going to match in this, et cetera, et cetera. That's not true. I mean, I passed all the rest of my shelf exams, no problem, and I got a outstanding on my sub-I and all of those things, and of course passed my boards with no issues as well. So I ended up getting, I think, probably 11 or 12 interviews, and I retook the exam. I passed the second time. It wasn't that big of a deal. Again, things seem like they're so big at the moment, but then when you look at the grand scheme of things and you can dissect out the problems and have a plan of attack, then you can really identify identify the problem and move forward and learn from it. And then, I was able to talk about that if it was asked on my interviews, about, what I did and how I attacked that problem and how that helped me grow as a person. Being a Black woman in medicine. So the 3 things that come to mind for me, and gratitude, appreciation, and commitment. And so I feel grateful for being able to be in this position and being a part of this group of strong Black women. Even though there's not many of us, we do exist, and I feel grateful that I have this platform that I can be able to interact with people and impact their lives. So that's really I don't know, that makes me happy. I feel appreciative of the people who went before me, and thankful for them as well, because with being in medicine in general is not easy, and then even a smaller number. I was just telling you, it's like only 4% of physicians are Black, and of a million, like there's like a little over 1 million physicians. So just keeping that in perspective, there's just not very many of us out there, and there's an even smaller number of Black physicians. So it's a hard journey in itself, and then being Black and being a woman and like a very male dominated field adds extra pressures and extra stress. So with each generation, with each class, it gets just a little bit easier for the next class going forward. And I feel committed to, I was saying all those things. I feel committed to, helping the next generation and helping, reaching out my hand and helping those who are in the journey right now or who want to be in this journey, and making sure that I help to pave the way for them. And then I feel a commitment to my patients, and to the communities that I serve. And I think Charles Barkley said back in the 90s, I am not someone's role model, but the thing is, we're all role models. We're all role models to our family members, to our friends and our peers, to our communities. And so I wear this hat with gratitude and humility. My goals and dreams. So coming from a public health world and having a master's in public health, really that opened my eyes to health disparities in our communities, and it that changed me. Like that was like, this is what I want to work on, working on health equity. So I always imagined having a career where I was able to combine the 2 worlds of population health, public health, and medicine. And so that hasn't changed. I thought about being a cardiologist, believe it or not, but I actually don't like EKGs too much, but that's okay. But the message never changed, regardless if I was going to be a cardiologist or a general internal medicine physician like I am, that prevention was really key. So getting the message out to people that living a healthy lifestyle, and we can prevent many conditions before they even happen, and doing that in in terms of, or in a context of, that person's environment, which definitely contributes to their health, and so that's always been my focus and my mindset, and that's what I want to continue to build on. Most recently, I have received a research grant, so to help kind of build my skill set in the research arena and, more population health, patient health research, patient-centered research, and that's what I want to develop my skills in, and then, and of course have some type of, not just a research on a community, but actually developing meaningful interventions that will help in communities. And I know that I can't do it alone. It has to be in conjunction with having policymakers being aware of these types of health disparities, for example, and designing neighborhoods and communities so we can have healthy outcomes for all. Words of wisdom and advice, I would say, is that, keep the big picture in mind, but when you're going through this process, oftentimes you're going to need to put on blinders to outside noise, to outside criticisms, and, not everyone, unfortunately, is your friend. Not everyone is supportive of your goals and your dreams, and you'll hear a lot of stuff that you're like, really? Even when I was on an interview trail, I remember one of my interviewers asked me when I plan on getting married and starting a family. I was 27 years old when I started the interview trail, and so, many people were like, oh, you were young, but then, I guess I was older for going into medical school, so I definitely got those types of comments said to me, and, I had a great support system. My mom, my dad before he passed away, sister, and then my friends keeping me grounded and understanding that, I can't be there for every birthday party or every time someone's getting married, et cetera, et cetera. But so having that support system in place. So you'll get a lot of outside noise, you get a lot of haters, as they say, but keeping the blinders on and then keeping the big picture in mind. What keeps me going? So I would say, again, family, loved ones keep me going. My wonderful fiance keeps me going, and then my community actually keeps me going as well, being able to help my patients out, thinking in the future about how I want to impact not just individuals but communities as a whole. That would really keeps me going as well. And then just having the love and support from my family, friends, loved ones, etc. That drives me every day. So my favorite organ system is the heart. Like I said, I thought about being a cardiologist many moons ago, and I've always liked the idea that it is like your personal plumbing system for your body, and supplies all of the blood and oxygen to all your different organs, and really just the physiology of it. And the pathophysiology is really cool, and if you're not taking care of your heart, then so many bad things can happen to your body in general. And being able to, I guess, relay those messages to patients and explaining it to them in a way that they can understand, and why it's important for them to get up and exercise, or get up and eat well, or lose weight, and all of those things, so we won't get to a point where we are using medications to help with the function of your heart and etc. And so that's why it's my favorite organ. I am Alana Biggers, and I am an internal medicine physician, and we are all black kids in white coats. I would say,